Hello, dear starshines. Welcome to the Lunchtime Chats. My name is Christina, and I am with Light Body Academy. Thank you so much, guys, for hanging out, saying hi, and chatting with each other. I'm glad you guys are connecting. I'm glad to make it here. I decided to come into closer to civilization to have access to the internet. So, because the further you go into the mountains away from civilization, as you guys can imagine, the internet access is not so great. So anyway, so I made it a venture into the historical downtown here, and here we are. So for those of you who are new, my name is Christina, and I'm an acceleration expert, and we are here to talk about those topics and issues that are significant for us starseeds, way showers, and new paradigm visionaries, because we have abilities and perceptions that perhaps the larger mass of our human family do not embrace. Therefore, we have very unique perspectives, very unique angles to the kind of challenges we face on a daily basis. So I am here to provide, to the best of my ability, a liberated perspective to these challenges, to these issues that are in the top of our awarenesses. And of course, as always these days, there's lots happening, lots and lots happening. So we have everything from the magnetic galactic reversal sheet that hit our planet in the morning of July 2nd. We have that influencing the collective and our personal energies and our brainwaves and all that good stuff, the polarity of our biosuits. So that's impacting a lot. We have the whole issue with CERN. Oh my gosh, people are going nuts over that. So I'm happy to go into my take on that. Then, of course, we have the whole thing with the Georgia Guidestones. There's that, and then there's the warmongering going on in Ukraine. A lot of people are shocked that finally the U.S. is starting to fess up to all those biolabs that have been funded by certain political leaders in our country that are in the Ukraine. I mean, truth is exploding left and right. And if any more truth bombs hit humanity, holy moly. Okay, so there's a thunderstorm rolling in. The thunderstorm, hold on, loud. All right, hold on. So the whole reason why I chose this spot is because the thunderstorm's rolling in, and I can have internet here and some shelter from the storm. Let's see. All right, what do you guys think? It's looking kind of dark and blue out there, huh? All right, I'll give it a minute. It might just blow over. The wind gets pretty crazy, which I know affects the microphone. So you guys let me know if the wind is impacting the microphone. Actually, I know it's going to impact the microphone, so I'm just going to go in. All right. Crazy times these are. How many more truth bombs can our human family deal with? Have you guys been asking yourself that lately? How many more truth bombs is the collective going to be able to handle? Here we go. So now we're chilling in my car. All right. It's like we're driving somewhere. Hopefully we're driving somewhere that brings us some peace and settling inside of ourselves amongst all this nuts, this craziness. All right, let me first say hi to all the dear star signs joining us right now. Hello, dear Carol. So good to see you. You're like old faithful here. All right, dear Kitty. Hey, girl. How you doing from Ohio? Beverly, good to see you. Sherry, hello from dear Oregon. And then Eva. Yes, thank you. The prayers worked. I'm here. And then thanks for the heads up. Yeah, thank you. There. Yes. All right. Thank you. So good to see you guys. I'm so glad that it's really such an honor that you guys make time out of your busy day to hang with me and join these chats, because I know you guys, your time is precious, and I do my best to serve the way I can, and sometimes it's okay, sometimes it's great, sometimes maybe it's not so great. So I'm just doing my best here. So let's get back to it. All these truth bombs that are dropping on the human family, the collective family, over and over again, before this acceleration really got strong, which we've been building up into this acceleration for decades, guys. It's really been starting for quite some time. 1999 is when it really started to take hold, the acceleration process, and then it's just been climax, building ever since. Now, many people are kind of waking up like as if this acceleration process is new. And what I'm here to tell you guys, it's just getting more and more momentum. That's what's happening. The momentum is absolutely massive. And if you're still asleep, you're not going to feel the momentum. Instead, that's going to translate to stress, anxiety, things not going the way you want them, or things, or things not tasting as sweet as they should be. Stuff like that. Dissatisfaction with life. But once you're awake, then you get this overwhelming sense of how accelerated the opening of consciousness is right now on this planet and the solar ring. So this acceleration has been building for a while, and back 20 years ago, 25 years ago, whatever, when a truth bomb would come out, it'd be a truth bomb, and then everything would be kind of like, coasting for a few months. And then there'll be a truth bomb, then it would coast for a few months, maybe even a year. But now what's happening with humanity, there's truth bomb after truth bomb after truth bomb with no break in between. People don't have a place to retreat, which I guess is a scenario that has to happen for them to realize that there's no more sand for them to duck their head in, right? It's like, you got to face it. You got to face that what you thought was happening in this planet is not actually what's happening. There's actually a whole nother reality that's happening here that most everybody, except for folks like us, are aren't woken up to. And I would venture to say that even us, our crowd, those that really seek the scathing truth, really seek out what is actually real here versus what I want to be so versus what I'm conditioned to think is so, all that stuff. Even thus, us in this crowd, multidimensionals, I think we still have more to go to recognize the true reality of what's actually happening on this planet. Yes, we've woken up to the galactic mind, to the nesting dolls of these realities, all these layers, but I feel like there's even more. There's even more for us to discover. So that just reinforces that idea that this is a marathon that we're on, all of us on this planet. This is a marathon of awakening to ourselves. This is not a sprint. So when it's a marathon, that means we have to pace ourselves. We have to self-care. We have to really pay attention to how we are in our biosuit. How are we emotionally? How are we spiritually? How are we mentally? You know what I mean? We need to constantly check in, and give ourselves exactly what it is that we need to nourish inside, so we can sustain this marathon awakening that we're on, because it's not just a mind-blowing thing. It's something that impacts the electromagnetics of our biosuit. It impacts our planet. It impacts our collective. It impacts nature. It impacts the weather. It impacts everything. Our biosuits our bodies get challenged with the multidimensional stressors that are coming online right now. So that self-care is so highly important. Hello, Sheen. Good to see you. Hey, Susan. So glad to have you, darling. All right. So let's talk about this. Some of these bombs comment. So the galactic magnetic reversal maybe not be such a big deal for folks, but I've been tracking that for a while, and I feel like that's a significant door opener to even greater change of the consciousness of this planet. Because that means what was once was positive is now negative. What was once negative is now positive. So that means our biosuits, the electromagnetics of our brain waves, everything about our being is now walking through a world that is reversed from what it is. That means that galactic nesting doll, that outer nesting doll informing our inner reality and the here and now reality has had a pole shift. So now it's completely flipped. And it's only a matter of time before that percolates through the rest of the nesting dolls that we are in. And I don't have my whiteboard to draw it out. So let me just give you a little bit of a visual here. So we are infinite beings in a biosuit. This reality is not just this 3D reality. There are nesting dolls of realities that through consensus all together are creating our here and now moment. So there's now, if I go into the cosmic arena, that's a little bit too abstract, but a lot of us can imagine an image in our mind what the galaxy looks like, what the Milky Way galaxy looks like, right? When you say Milky Way galaxy, everybody thinks about that spiral galaxy, those two arms of spinning light with a great big bright spot in the center. That's the Milky Way galaxy. So because we can image it like that so easily by just saying that word, that's a good place to start with, start touching on these nesting dolls, because that's not way too abstract. It won't take us out of our bodies. Versus if we go into the galactic arena, the cosmic arena, and start visualizing things in that way, it very quickly starts taking us away from our physical body and our here and now, because it's too expansive for this narrow bandwidth of our reality to be in both places. Until it's not, of course, right? Because those of us who've been doing our unwinding work, we can be in both places, right? But that's a journey. That's not something that comes naturally, unless you're one of those new star shines, new star seeds, crystal children being born to this planet right now, in which case that's just everyday state of being, right? Okay, so that outer nesting doll, the Milky Way galaxy, that is the reversal. That's what has experienced the electromagnetic reversal. Now, there are many nesting dolls within that. So we have the galactic nesting doll, and then we have the freeways of light, the stellar networks nesting doll, and then we have the geometry nesting doll, the light body nesting doll. This is the light, the light codes, the light shapes that are precursor to physical form. So then we have that nesting doll, and then we have the Akashic nesting doll, that soul's journey, the perception of being in a soul's journey. And that is also the nesting doll where time starts to come into play in our reality. Except in that nesting doll, time is a spiral. It has a more cyclical kind of nature to it. And then the inner nesting doll into that 4D field, that's where linear time is now influencing reality. So all those nesting dolls are informing our here and now moment. Now there's more nesting dolls within that, but just for simplicity, just go with those that I've already outlined. So because that electromagnetic reversal has hit, it finally has come to our planet. It's like a sheet of ripples, right? Comes to our planet, and now everything has shifted. To me, this is an opportunity. It's going to stay this way if the science is the correct kind of science, right? Because there's a whole bunch of issues about our science that we have on this planet. But if the science, what they're calculating is correct, they're saying it's going to stay this way for the next 5 years. So this is a 5-year doorway opportunity here for humanity that just began on July 2nd. Okay, so there's that's affecting a lot of people. I did post that in the Rise group. I don't think I got to the Telegram group to put it in there, but there were some responses where people are like, that was something that finally clicked for them. Things that were happening in their lives started to make sense from that, right? From that idea. So there's that kind of thing. Now we have all these other truth bombs coming forward. People are extremely concerned about CERN, right? The Hadron Collider, because evidently it was happening, and then I guess it broke down, something happened, and now it's back again. So people are concerned that CERN, when you are colliding atoms at super high velocities, creating black holes, that people are concerned that that's actually creating alternate timelines, it's destroying universes, it's creating universes, all those things, right? So now remember those nesting dolls that I said in the beginning. Those nesting dolls are important to this conversation because sure, it's creating universes, but you know what? We're creating universes all the time with every holistic, all-encompassing orgasm that a human has is creating a universe. Think about that for a second. Oh my gosh, whoa. Think about the millions of people doing that. Think about the millions of people doing that with no consciousness whatsoever about what they're doing. They're just having pleasure. They're just having a great time. Who cares, whatever, right? So when you take into the power of the biosuit and the systems of the biosuit, when it's coupled with conscious awareness, expanded conscious awareness of what's going on, we can create realities as easily as a device like this can. Okay, the difference is it's a device. It's a technology ran by technical. There's AI involved in that. You know what I mean? There's more of like a a technical vibe to it. So it's actually potentially creating realities where AI has more dominance in its influence of our nesting dolls of creation, right? But here's the thing. We absolutely can counteract anything that CERN does. And I know people are trained not to understand how we have that level of empowerment. And that's why I'm here talking about this. We, me, you, all the other multidimensionals, all the other people who are awake to who they are as an infinite being in a biosuit, we all have the ability to take advantage of that opportunity to create the reality we want, not what they, the mysterious they, who are creating, okay? Because if you think about the scientists involved in CERN, maybe they're aware, maybe they're not. So if they're not aware, they're just kind of like mindless folks, just having casual sex and casual orgasms, not even caring about what they're feeding with their energy, right? Right? So they could be doing something like that, which means, as with humans, if we're not minding our energy, if we're not paying attention to what we're creating with our energy, there's other dimensional aspects of beings that are more than happy to take that energy we're releasing and make it in alignment with their own agenda, right? Hence all of the energetic parasites out there, right? And the luge feeding out there. Okay, we're feeding because we're not aware or care on a mass level about what we do with our bandwidth, our focus, with the energy that our body creates. There's thousands of races of beings that feed off of our energy, and then they create the reality that they want according to their agenda, and we're just food at that point. Okay, but we're food not because we're powerless. We're food because we're ignorant. We're lied to. We're not told the truth about who we are and the true power of what it is to have a biosuit. Okay, that's why these things are here. If we knew from the get-go how sacred we are as beings coming straight out of the mother's womb, right? And we are truly loved and venerated and nurtured to feed the light inside of us, none of this would be happening. Okay, but the fact is, we're taught the exact opposite. We're taught that we're sinners. We're taught that we're not worthy. We're traumatized at young ages. We're not valued as young children. You know what I mean? We're like, all the beauty and innocence and magnificence of our being is diminished by the basic system of human society. I'm going to say modern society, because I imagine there's indigenous cultures out there that still have their connection and their awareness to these pieces, and they hold their children sacred. They hold life sacred. Okay, so I'll say Western culture. So when you have this kind of thing in mind, you can see that this technology with the CERN thing is not as big of it doesn't have to be as detrimental as it's trying to be made out to be. Now, I'm not saying they're not opening very, very significant portals to alternate realities, or even destroying timelines or destroying realities, because they are. But what I'm saying is that if we get together in groups and we agree on a future reality, a reality where our children are held sacred, a reality where we all have clean air, we all have clean water, we all have living soil, we all have a right to pursue happiness. If we can agree on this kind of reality, one where we're all unified and supportive of humanity's strengths, and what we leave for our children and our children's children's children, if we're in alignment with that idea, that perception, all we need to do is sit with focused meditation on that reality while the CERN thing's going on. And we quite literally, when they open the door and destroy one universe, the next universe comes in is the one that we create. You, me, it's the one that we create, not the one that the technology is creating. You understand? So light workers unite. Absolutely. Absolutely. The idea is, though, we need to agree. We need to have a resonance agreement. We need to agree on the larger context. And this is why in the past, only the elders of a community would get together and do a collective process of dreaming the world into being. They would do a collective process of dreaming the potentials forward for their people, for their lands, for, you know, for their children and their children's children's children. Okay. Now, in Western society, we don't necessarily have the elders that have that level of sacred space that they hold inside of themselves. Maybe we do. Actually, there's several in this group actually that I know are elders and have that capacity. So I think we're a little bit of an exception to the collective, the bigger collective. But we're waking up more and more. Lightworkers are waking up more and more together. So that's what's so powerful about groups, is that the resonance builds, and as the electromagnetic brain pattern of the dream that we're bringing forward, that we're bringing into being, the transmissions from these outer nesting dolls, we're actually pulling the galactic reality, we're pulling the stellar network reality, we're pulling the light body realities, we're pulling on the akashic realities, we're pulling on frequencies, on all those nesting dolls into our here and now reality that are in resonance, that are a frequency match to the dream it is that we want to create. Okay. When we do that on a collective level, it is unstoppable. It is powerful. Okay. And it doesn't matter anymore what the technology is or who is opening the doorway. We claim what happens once that doorway opens. You see what I mean? I hope this is helpful for you guys, what I'm trying to say. It's like, we're not told the whole truth. And this is why the disclosure movement is a problem. And this is why I also have a problem with the Galactic Federation, because they also tell half-truths. They don't tell the whole story. They will only tell you, well, all right, I should frame this up with, from what I have been exposed to in the past. Now, maybe the Galactic Federation has woken up and is stepping into the new paradigm reality. But what I've experienced in the past of the Galactic Federation is that they only will speak to things if you already know that it's absolutely true. If you already know that it's absolutely true, then they'll speak to it. But they don't bring new concepts forward. They always work within the framework what's already in awareness, if that makes sense. And it's kind of abstract what I'm trying to describe, but let me know if this is landing. So there are light workers that have been getting together, and I know of a specific group that did get together. It was a very large group of light workers. I'm talking about in the thousands, that did this exact thing when the Hadron Collider was turned on. Okay? Yes, exactly. The Galactic Federation still has their own politics. That's exactly right. Thank you. But I want to get back to this group of light workers, and what they're doing exactly what I was talking about. They had a future, had a dream that they all agreed on and meditated upon before, during, and after the collider exercise, the CERN exercise. So I am suspecting that actually took us into a different timeline. And that is what we're seeing with the Georgia Guidestones. That's my sense here, is that we did, on a whole collective level, we did a timeline shift / universal shift, into a whole different kind of nesting doll of reality, right? It shifted us into a whole different nesting doll of reality. And we're seeing the results of that with the Guidestones. And I don't dismiss the idea that it was purposely blown up by the people who built it. I don't dismiss that idea at all. That could be so. That could absolutely be so. But the actual intent and drama behind it isn't what's important. What's important, that it was time. It's time for that to come down. That has reached, that intent has come full circle, and it's time for it to close. So now it's coming into its full circleness, whatever that full circleness might be. Okay. So I mean, if you guys can step back a little bit, because there's all this noise that happens. People say it's this, and people say no, it's that, and no, it's this over here, and then someone else steps up. You're both wrong. It's actually this, right? It gets really confusing because there's a lot of emotional, mental charge with each storytelling, and if you feel into it, each emotional charge has a loop. It's in a loop. It's not going anywhere. So for me, that's showing me it's a dead end. It means I need to step back further, step back further, step back further until I have a perspective where it all starts to come together and I can feel a sense of movement. I can feel the sense of that full circle nature, like I talked about. And this isn't logic. This is me paying attention to what's going on in my body. It's me paying attention to how things are feeling when I'm in the presence of the data sets. Okay. So this dynamic with CERN, this dynamic with the timeline shifting, all this stuff requires stepping pretty far back. So the narrative of why this is that and this is so isn't necessarily of influencing your perception. Okay. You have to step back far enough so you can see it from that, see it from the much bigger picture. Maybe call it the bird's eye view. Okay. All right. So there was that group of light workers that got together. More and more light workers are getting together. They're catching on that, yes, this is a good idea. And they're doing these things. And not only that, light workers are getting together in groups, are being called to get together in groups, large and small, to start undoing a lot of the grid works, to start undoing a lot of the consciousness grids, false consciousness grids. We'll call it false matrix consciousness grids that have been anchored, influencing the subconscious of humanity. This has been happening more and more and more. I've even been invited into a few of those circles, right? So this is something that's a good idea for all of us to find the people that we really resonate with deeply like that. We can really have a trusting connection with, and that you feel comfortable and accepted and tracking with and unwinding these things. There's so many layers to it. We only can get out of it together. There's no one savior. There's no one person. It's up to us to save ourselves. It's up to us to save ourselves. No one's going to do it for us. And I'm sorry, because there's a lot of people in the ET world that feel like, a ship is going to come down and save us. And that's not what's going to save us, guys. That's not what's going to wake us up. Okay, that's not what's going to wake us up. So, and I feel like, all right, I have to back up a little. Let me back up before I go down that road. The other thing that I talk about a lot is the bifurcation timeline. You guys remember this? The idea of the bifurcation timeline is that there is going to be a split where the people who want to wake up will wake up and ascend into another version of the earth. And then the people who want to stay in the power of dynamic games are going to go in another direction, and Earth is going to split. That's not the timeline that resonates for me at all. For me, I feel like that's a lose. That's not a win. That's a lose, right? That's Mother Earth getting split again, right? I'm feeling like the timeline that speaks to my soul is the one where we all are coming home together, where the Earth is not splitting. She's unifying with different versions of her. She's unifying into a much more concentrated kind of consciousness. So the more that unifies, the more these bifurcations, these false timelines collapse, and our life force energy becomes more and more consolidated on particular timeline narratives. I feel like this is more of an alignment with my soul. That speaks to me, and I feel like that really resonates with the version of the Pachamama that I'm resonating with, right? So all these things, all these other pieces are kind of like distractions or attempted hijackings, let's say, And the Georgia Guidestones and CERN are an important part of this narrative for a few reasons. One is that there's a narrative that goes along with CERN getting fired up because it's the dark forces trying to recreate the bifurcated timeline. So there's that. There's also this idea that the Georgia Guidestones were actually holding the energy of the bifurcation timeline, where there's a mass catastrophe, there's very few survivors, and and then they discover the Guidestones, and all of a sudden become enlightened or something like this, aligned with the agenda that created that apocalypse in the first place, right? So that's not it either. That's, a lot of people are tracing those Guidestones to an agenda, an ET agenda, which could be, and it could be a human that's being, influenced through false matrix grids, right? and that's what they're inspired. So there's a group of people that feel inspired, and these are the principles that we really believe will make life good on this planet, and then they invested in that and created it. This is how us light workers need to work. We need to understand where is it that we all have common ground on? What is the reality that we truly want to have? And now let's get together and resonate with that reality. Because right now, the lightworker world is still fighting over mask, not mask, vax, not vax, bioweapon, not bioweapon. I mean, there's still all these narratives that the lightworker world is that's getting split up. And this is what we need to get over. Get over that dance. Get over that dance. Right? And realize that we're all humans and we all have to save ourselves. These are agendas that are just been splitting us up, been making us dividing ourselves, looking, pointing the finger. And as you know, every time we're pointing the finger to blame something or somebody, we're stepping into a disempowerment program. And it's a program. It's a consciousness grid. It's not the truth of who we are. Those consciousness grids can hijack us in a second if we're not careful. They hijack us through our solar plexus in a split second. As soon as we touch anger and frustration, boom, the grid is now, it's activated and it's now influencing us. And we are now splitting our life force energy into managing our reaction. And usually, because we take so much life force energy to focus on managing our reaction, we're no longer fully present with the moment, with what's around us. You know what I mean? So these consciousness grids are really powerful. And, we need to understand that it's not about the narrative that we're fighting about. It's about the feeling we're holding that's pulling us in, that's sucking us in to the narrative. And, how do we make a different choice? How do we choose to connect over common ground versus the dividing ground? All right, let me step in here. There's a few folks that are talking. Let me see. Yeah, thank you, Beverly, for that. Yes, the Galactic Federation still has its own politics. And and programming. Yep. Thank you. The bifurcation. Okay, Eva's chiming in on the bifurcation. Doesn't make sense to her either. Truth bombs hit Georgia Guidestones. Yeah, right. All right. And then we have a dear sister Felicia saying, may I ask, how is knowing all these details of opposition not a distraction of staying on track of and navigating who we truly are? Thank you. That's an excellent question. We have to address that. It's because these the stories, the narratives that we're told have a reaction. We have a reaction inside. We may not want the reaction. We may not like the reaction. We may not agree with the reaction. But the fact is, something in us, whether we're in touch with it or not, is having a reaction. Okay? So there's two folds here. The twofold is one, getting in touch with the feeling that's in the reaction and really dropping into that and feeling it and having it helps us stay in our body, helps us stay centered. It moves energy out of the way so we become even more connected with ourselves. Okay? Versus if we make that feeling wrong and say, oh, I'm not down for that narrative. It's all negative. It's all judgment. It's all this, it's all that. And you just dismiss it. Then there's a part of you that's having a reaction that is also getting dismissed with it. Okay. And now that part of you is rejected. That part of you has been denied. It's probably an inner child part that's buried in the subconscious anyway, and it just further disconnects ourselves from ourselves. Okay. So that's the first fold to that. The second fold to that is that the lies are so intense in the opposition stories that the way that we can navigate through that is have that capacity to perceive the possibility of both being true. If you can do that, you are creating flexibility on a deep subconscious level within yourself. You're no longer capturable by the 4D grid works and the 4D narratives. Okay, so that's why the details. That's why, and my function here with certain details is just to give a different perspective than what's already out there. Because a lot of people feel kind of like locked in between. There's a feeling of, there's a feeling of tightness in the throat or the solar plexus, and maybe a little bit anxiousness, or kind of like, oh my gosh, what's about this? And by sharing a perspective that's different than what's been out there, that helps lessen the tension, that like kind of pops the cork, like, oh, okay, I can see that as being possible. Okay, this idea just opened me up to something that I wasn't open to up a moment ago. So it's stuff like that. So I'm not here trying to claim like it's the ultimate truth of everything I'm saying. I'm here to give a liberated perspective. That's all. Hopefully, Felicia, let me know if that's helpful in how I'm answering that. All right, dear Sister Eva says, I'm just checking. I'm just not understanding the bigger picture of the Earth raising her frequency. Why is she doing this? In my view, it's exactly where it's supposed to be. Right? Yeah, supposed to. So what it is, all right, so what is it to raise frequency first? All right, so you're talking like Schumann resonance, you're talking about like the baseline hertz frequency of the Earth, where it used to be around 8.5, is now spiking into these really high frequencies, all the way up to 200 hertz. I believe there was one last month that was like up to 200 hertz. So because everything happens together, what happens to our body happens in this planet. What happens to this planet is happening to our body. So the planet is having these massive frequency shifts. That means these massive deep frequency shifts are happening within our body. Now, we are in a falsely constructed reality. I'm talking about our belief systems, this false matrix. It's not real. Okay, all these ideas that we have about ourselves are not real. It's all stories that close us down, lock our consciousness down, hold our frequency down. Okay? So because of that, this shifting in frequency, those structures that have been locking things down, those belief systems that have been closing us off, those ideas that have been keeping us self-limited, are not a frequency match for these spikes in frequencies. So we get these deep subconscious challenges of our ego driver gets challenged because the very foundational blocks that a lot of those belief systems were built on a frequency level are no longer there. And boy, is that freaky. It's freaky because sometimes, and it feels like this, you'll wake up one day and you feel like you're going to die. You feel like that, like something's happening and you're about to die. Death is at your doorstep, right? This has happened to me a few times. Death is at your doorstep. And the truth is, death isn't at my physical body's doorstep. Death is at my ego driver's doorstep. And I really go through the thoughts and feelings of I'm about to die. And that's a very uncomfortable place to go. There's a lot of surrender that has to happen. So there's anxiety, there's fear, it could even escalate into terror and loathing or helplessness, hopelessness, right? All those things, because that's all the ego driver, having its reaction energetically in our subconscious, losing its footing and falling away. Then you'll wake up the next day and you'll feel lighter, you feel better. And it's like, oh, something changed. And it's because that part of you died. Why did it die? Because the frequency that it was built on is no longer there. That's what these frequency spikes are doing for us. It's shedding. It's making us shed these false matrices, because what they're anchored on, what they're locked into, can't stay locked into it if the frequency changes. The frequency has to stay in a particular harmonic for certain lockdowns to remain so. Another big lockdown that is totally opening up for humanity right now is I'm going to say for me right now, I think humanity has been, those of us on the cutting edge have already been aware of it. And those are the misery programs that the moon holds in place for us. Sexual misery programs, the male-female disharmonial programs, the misogyny programs, all that stuff has been held in place by the cycles of our moon. And that's something that's really awesome for us to wake up to. And that's why I posted that quote from Gurdjieff, so we can understand what it is to creating from our essence versus creating with the mechanisms of these false matrices. Okay. But I'm going to go down that rabbit hole in a minute. Let me keep going because I think Felicia responded. She says, reactions, yes, I get it on these levels. So many do not ask what dimensional consciousness may... Wait a minute. Hold on. Let me read that again. So maybe not ask what dimensional consciousness may navigate us through it. Okay, I think there might be a typo in there. Ask what dimensional consciousness may navigate us through it. All right, Felicia, if you can put that in another way, I'm not quite understanding what you mean. Yeah, so there is an art to asking the right question to see through the noise, right? The noise of the 4D field. But in my experience, it's best to just unplug from the 4D field, unplug from the human narrative, and then start feeling in for the question, because a lot of the interdimensional dynamics are deeply cloaked and hidden and purposely obscured. So it's difficult to be in that environment to get to the right question to ask oneself. That, a question that actually brings clarity. This is just my guess of what you're asking. So it's helpful to understand what the 4D field is, so we can have a sense of what it is, have an intent of what it is to unplug from that and then view a situation, then feel into a situation. Maybe that's closer to what you're asking. Thank you for that, by the way. These are great questions. All right, so Eva says, interesting right now. Okay, so we are just rebalancing the night and the day, light and dark. Yeah, so yeah, you can look at it that way. So the polarity reality, though, is coming to an end. That outer nesting doll is beyond the galactic, and it's coming to an end. So that's the whole new universe kind of language that comes in. So we have yet to see what that looks like. Right now, our soul has been journeying through a reality that required light and dark to have a continual dance to create harmony and balance, right? And you had to have the dark in order to stimulate the light, to challenge the light, to discover more, to rise to more occasion, to have these dynamics. So it's like the dark's job was to create aversions, to create adversity for us to navigate through. Now, it's become extremely sophisticated these days, especially given the take how people are waking up to interdimensional AI, right? So the navigation isn't so clear because there's a lot of fear that gets triggered. There's a lot of ancestral dramas, unresolved ancestral dramas that get triggered that we have to work through. And it's very intense emotionally. It's very intense spiritually. So we need to learn to navigate that. So we can say, oh yeah, that's just dark and light balancing itself. It's like, yeah, but the nitty gritty work of what that is, you know what I mean? It takes a lot of inner strength, a lot of inner conviction to hold to that, to hold to the alchemizing, to hold to bringing compassion and love into all these pieces and allowing it to alchemize in the way that's going to alchemize. We may not have the idea that we have of what it looks like to alchemize something, what it should be after we do our thing. It may not look like that at all. So we need to leave room for that as well. We are the bringers of light. We're the bringers of love and compassion. That is our job. It's not necessarily our job to dictate how all these things are going to unravel. Okay, we can't say this is how it's going to unravel and this is how it's supposed to be. We can't say that because we're coming from a mental field that's polarized. We're coming from an ego driver that's conditioned and blinded. So quite literally, the outcome that serves all being is beyond what we can comprehend on a human ego driver level. That's not to say we can't dream it. That's not to say we can't, you see what I mean? We can't influence how things are going to organize, right? We can, and we do, but we don't know one voice is the dictator here. It's a consensus reality. Okay. It's a consensus reality. So unconscious and conscious, are we saying there is no longer value in the presence of unconscious? Yeah, this is a big combo. Unconscious has its value because in several ways, right? All right. Yeah, this is actually way bigger than this is going to take us way off in another direction. I want to stick on if I'm sorry, Eva, because this is going off in a way direction. I want to go back to the moon thing and that Gurdjieff quote that I posted, because I really feel like that's, another thing that people need to understand how we're manifesting through. And this is why. Okay, so the Gurdjieff quote it's pretty much saying Gurdjieff is saying that most humans don't realize that we are all food. All humans, all animals, all plant life, we are all food to the mechanisms of the moon. All right, our life force is feeding the moon. And what he's talking about are the grid works, the control systems on a deep subconscious level that the moon is holding in place. Okay, that's what he's talking about. And he's saying that it's important for humans to wake up to their own divine will. I'm talking about your essence now, your own divine will, and start manifesting through the means of your infinite nature. And this is not the way he says it, but this is my understanding, through your infinite nature versus the mechanisms that are in this outer reality. So the mechanisms of the inner outer reality is, the kinds of things that you would think about if you wanted to build a fort. Okay, I need to have the money. I need to get the supplies. I need to recruit the help. I need to do this. I need to do that, right? So you're using with the tools that you have access to in 3D reality. Now, there are many, many people that know about manifestation and teach manifestation techniques. So they too have an awareness of how to work with different energetics of this reality. Moon ceremonies, great example, right? Moon manifestation. So, but this is still using outer forces to manifest what you want in the here and now. And I feel like what he's saying is that there's an inner resource to manifesting what it is that we want in the here and now. And that is exactly what we need to wake up to. And this is why I'm so passionate about you guys reclaiming your dream time. Okay? Reclaim that dream time so you can go into the abyss beyond those nesting dolls, and your spirit is actually pulling forward the frequencies from the great abyss into the here and now, integrating it into your body. And that is how you manifest, bypassing the moon programs, bypassing the 4D field manipulations, the false matrix. You quite literally dream it into reality. Okay. And I know this sounds far-fetched, and it's because we're trained to think that way. But this is a secret that we have known. I'm talking about humanity has known for many thousands of years. It has been lost because there are agendas to go out and wipe out the indigenous knowledge on this planet, which you guys have seen unfold over and over again. I mean, the most recent story of that is what the U.S. has done to the indigenous populations. The U.S. and Canada has done to the North American indigenous populations. But before that, it was the conquistadors. Before that, it was the Roman Empire. Before that, it was the Mongolian hordes. Before, you know what I mean? Or maybe the Mongolian hordes came before that. Anyway, the sequence doesn't matter, but you get what I'm saying. There's been constantly an agenda of wiping out indigenous knowledge, mystical indigenous knowledge, and the deep mystery secrets of what humans truly are as multidimensional beings. Okay, so because of all that happening, our dream time has been lost to most of humanity. The dream time has been lost. So so it's time now that these veils are lifting so much, it's time now to reclaim the dream time. In the beginning, the work is, dealing with the things that have you anchored into the narratives of the 4D field, the different things that you have a strong emotional charge about, the deep woundings that have happened over the dynamics that have unfolded in your life, in your ancestors' life, in the collective around you's lives, right? Unwinding the emotional charges of all that. So when you are going into dream time, you're no longer staying within that 4D field. You're able to dive past that, maybe even past the akasha. You can get past all of those organizing forces and deal with total potential, be with just with potential, and bring, and access that way. But that takes time. And the reason why it takes time is because we are having this transition while we're in a biosuit. If we were not in a biosuit during this transition, the switch would happen like that. But the fact is, this transition has been orchestrated with the idea that the human population will stay in body while it happens. So for us to not completely have a psychotic break and lose our minds and become zero functional in this world, we have to work with our ego driver. We have to work with these process. We have to work with what our body needs, what our emotions need. We have to work with this unification process inside of us. And as we do that step by step, we all wake up. Maybe one at a time, maybe 10 at a time, maybe 1,000 at a time, whatever, increment by increment, we wake up more and more and more and more until we cross that critical mass level where just these old structures don't have the sway that they used to have. Okay. All right. Let's see. Dear Felicia says, holographic secrets and magic is wonderful work to support the adventure. Oh my gosh, isn't it? Oh, yes, 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 indeed. Yep, I believe this is coming from someone that knows firsthand the level, the malleability of this reality. Magic is real, folks. It absolutely is real. We are surrounded by magic, especially if you're in nature. Holy moly, nature is something else, let me tell you. Or don't let me tell you. Go out in nature and experience it for yourself. Stand there, sing to a tree, sing a song to a tree, see what happens. See what kind of feedback loop you get from that. Sing to the rivers. Read a story to the bird, to, some baby birds in a nest. See what happens. You'll be surprised on how easy it is to engage with nature. You just have to let it happen. You just need to make the effort. You have to want to have that connection. And in that, you will learn the language. As the feedback loop comes back to you, you will learn the language. I have beings talking to me all the time through nature, through birds, through insects, through, so it's a great big learning moment when I'm hanging around. Outside my RV, and there's all this interaction with nature coming forward. There's a language unfolding, and I'm learning. I'm appreciating the feedback loops that are coming, because it's all a dialogue. It's all a dialogue. Everything we do in our lives has a ripple effect that impacts everything else we're connected to. So everything we do impacts nature. Everything we do impacts each other. We may not be aware of it, but it does. Okay. It absolutely impacts. So each time you remember your dream and work the energies of the dream, you start, meditating and unwinding and unbraiding, all the different hangups within your dream. That is helping that's helping exponentially other people do the same. Okay. Because we are all in one collective dream. Okay. We are all in one collective dream. That's the dream of the Pachamama. And Pachamama is a Quechua term, quite literally means realm of the mother. Pacha, realm, mama, mother. Okay. And this is the understanding, is that we are all within her reality unfolding. We are actually all aspects of her unfolding her reality. Okay. And when I say her, I'm not even just talking just this blue ball going through space. I'm talking about the great cosmic mother of all creation, the one from which everything comes from. This is what she's the embodiment of. This is all that what we are specks of. We're specks of that creation, of that creator. And we get this magical wonderland to explore ourselves. Now, this magical wonderland, over time, through different agendas, has become a collective nightmare for a lot of people. And now we're faced with this opportunity to reclaim it for what we truly want for ourselves and future generations. Beverly says, all right, let's see. Beverly says, I like that. Cut out the middleman. Go straight to the source. Fast, my style. Great. That's awesome. Yeah, my style too. I like going straight to the source. And, and that's all right. I'm sorry. I'm trying to get to this piece about the finish off of the bifurcation. Okay, the other thing that's coming forward and I didn't mention is the disclosure movement. There is huge reveals happening in the disclosure movement, and there's a lot of talk about Richard Gere and his agenda and what he's doing and the movies he's making, what he's bringing forward, and all this stuff. And my sense of that whole thing is that with this particular timeline that we're on, there's still a probability of that fake alien invasion agenda. But the agenda is not what people think. People think the fake alien agenda is to scare people into giving up their arms and their sovereignty to the global elites or whatever we're calling them these days. That's not the agenda I see unfolding. The agenda I see unfolding is that he's a representative of an exopolitical agenda. Okay, I'm talking about a galactic civilization with galactic citizens, with a massive centralized place of power, hence the Galactic Federation, right? And that particular narrative is really serving that kind of political agenda, not the banksters, the oligarchs, the elite structures, the hijacked royal families, all that stuff. I don't believe that's their agenda. I believe that that's more of the exopolitical agenda. And that exopolitical agenda is about creating a bifurcated timeline. So we need to keep stepping back and looking at the bigger picture. The bigger picture isn't the global picture. The bigger picture is the galactic picture. Yeah, Stephen Greer. Thank you. I said Richard. It's Stephen Greer. Thank you. It's a galactic picture. That's the bigger picture you need to be looking at these pieces through. They make a lot more sense when you're seeing it at that level, when you're realizing that there's millions of species throughout the galaxy, and humans have been in contact with thousands of species for quite literally thousands and thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of years. It's not new. It's old. What's new is that people had the thought that ETs didn't exist. That's only over the past 3,000 years. Before that wasn't so. People knew that they existed. It was a part of our heritage. Like the Inca know that they are descendant of the serpent people. The certain sects of Maya trace their lineages going back into the Pleiades. There are different tribes. There are different tribes in Africa that trace origins going back to Sirius. Some of them trace origins going back to Orion. There are, you know what I mean? So if you go Oh, that was fun. Whatever that was. Okay. So if you go back into these indigenous records, pretty much all the races on their planet, except for one, were seeded by star people. Okay. So we have had connections from the very moment of our inception and creation on this planet, connections with star people. Okay. So it's not new. ETs is not new. This is old, ancient. Think more of ancient alien kind of stuff, right? If we step back and look at things on that perspective, all of these global narratives become more, they become clearer being the game that they are. It's a game of bait and switch. It's a game of confusion. A particular, hopefully my words are coming through. My thing keeps freezing. So when you step back and look at it in that other perspective, you can see it's much easier to see without the hooks and the drags and the emotional charges that there's agendas playing out that are trying to manipulate people into thinking a certain thing so they'll do a certain thing. You know what I mean? Then you can unplug and start to understand in a different way and approach in a different way. And when we approach these pieces in a different way, we have different kinds of brain waves happening. We have a different electromagnetic charge going on, and we are influencing the collective with that electromagnetic charge that we're holding. So even if we're the only one that has this thought and opinion in our immediate area, we're still benefiting people. We're still benefiting the collective. Okay? Yeah, yeah. So I hope these pieces that I'm talking about are helpful. So I know it's kind of like I'm saying that, there's wolf in sheep's clothing everywhere, because, well, there are, but I'm also saying that you are more than the wolf. You are the very landscape from which the wolf has its life force from. Okay, so don't worry about the wolves, worry about the landscape, worry about bring your focus in the ecosystem that you're keeping. That will allow the sheep and the wolf game to flourish or not. Nourish your landscape, nourish your inner world, resource from that place, and then you're on the right track, because now you're working purely from sourcing within versus trusting a story that's outside here somewhere, trusting that this is the truth out here, trusting that that person's full of truth, trusting that this person's full of truth. No, you are the truth. You hold the truth. Only you can figure out what that voice is saying inside of you. You have to have that. That's your inner compass. The shifting and the moving is going to continue, and it's going to get even more crazy. So this compass of yours needs to be needs to be happening. That's how you're going to navigate with sanity. That's how you're going to keep your sanity through the shenanigans. While everybody goes through the collective insanity, you'll be the one sitting on the bench, feeding the birds, enjoying yourself. All right, guys. Well, I hope this is helpful. I know we kind of went to a bunch of different places, but it does all connect together. It seems like they're disconnected, but all these dots connect. All these dots do make sense when you look at it in the bigger perspective. All right, guys. Well, if you want to continue to engage in the cultivation of these chats, I encourage you guys to check us out on our social media outlets. We're on Instagram, multidimensional accelerator. We're on Telegram, multidimensional human, and we are on Facebook, Rise of the Multidimensional Human, right? So that's how these conversations get cultivated. People post things, we talk about stuff, and then I just kind of extrapolate certain things from those conversations and bringing them into here. And if you are interested in stepping up and reclaiming your dream time, I highly encourage you guys to check out the Dreamtime Healing Project, and you can find that at lightbodyacademy.com. All right. There's a couple. Yes, the dots always connect. Thank you, Eva. Thank you, Felicia, for the great questions. Thank you, Carol. And the last thing chiming in from Felicia is the power is in our ability to create relationships with consciousness. Let's leave with that word of wisdom. Thank you so much, Felicia. Love you guys. Mwah. We shall see you guys next time.